Today I'm doing urban sketching from a photograph that I took in North Lake Harbor, Prince Edward Island. I'll be using watercolor, Tombow markers, and some fine liner pens. I used a mechanical pencil to lightly sketch out the basic outline of the boat to make sure that I had it placed on the paper where I wanted it. When I was done with the sketch, I used a kneaded eraser and just rolled it over the drawing to lighten the pencil sketch. I use fine liner pens to go over the drawing. I keep the reference drawing nearby, and this way when I'm drawing it, I can make any adjustments or corrections I think I needed, and I can add in more detail. I was fascinated by this old boat that was pulled up and left to rot. I just thought it was very interesting. I made my husband pull over in the car so that I could go out and take the photo. I'm going to jump ahead in the drawing process so that you don't have to sit through the whole thing. I treated the debris in the back of the boat the same way I would treat a lot of windows on a building. You just have to show that it's there. We don't have to actually count them. So I simplified what was in the back of the boat. The important part is that you're telling a story, that you're getting a feeling that there's all this rotted material just left and piled in the back of this boat, and the boat is left to rot. The same thing applies to the background. I'm not going to draw in every blade of grass and every weed or flower that is surrounding this boat, and I'm not doing the entire harbor behind it. I'll do a couple of buildings and I'll do the water that you see in the photo, but I simplify it. It still tells the story, but it doesn't take the focus away from the actual boat. With everything in place, I take the opportunity to go back and add some more detail. For the next step, I go in with the Tombow markers. Now I'm using just the grayscale markers. I have a couple of cool gray markers and a couple of warm gray markers, and I have a black. For Tombow, these are all considered the neutral markers, and the numbers on them all start with the letter N. What's great about the Tombow markers is that they're water soluble. So when I add the watercolors, the tones will stay there, but they'll blend in and become part of the watercolors. And you have to remember that the black will bleed into the watercolors the same as the gray tones, so you have to be a little bit careful around the black. The final step is the fun part, adding the watercolor. Now with this I want to get the idea of the rusted, rotting boat. And I start out working with lighter shades and then adding pops of color. And I just keep building on it until I get what I want. I'll put the green in for the grass, and then I'll make a little bit more yellow in spots, and then I'll go back in with some blue to add some shadows. So I'm just going to let this part play, and you can just see what I do with the watercolors. Now, I'm not trying to be photorealistic. I'm trying to get the feeling of the image that I see. And so I'm really loose with the paint. And I think that's part of the fun of it. It's fun to paint, and I think it gives a sense of motion to the color, and I think it's fun to see because of that. I want to keep the focus on the boat, so I'm not going to paint a sky. I don't need to. And you'll also notice that I paint the two buildings the same kind of purpley lavender shade, and that just kind of pushes them to the background and again keeps the boat as the center. As the paint dries, you can see that it gets lighter in spots. So I go back in and I add a little bit more color in certain spots, but I want to be very careful not to overwork it because that will just kill the picture. You can support my channel by subscribing so YouTube will share my videos with more people. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you ring that bell, you'll be notified every time I post a video. Thank you for watching.